friends, and welcome back to the Nourisher Podcast. Today's episode is part of our Recomposed series. This is a series where we are talking honestly about our bodies, our stories, and what it looks like to heal when life has completely knocked the wind out of us. I'm sitting down with Cristina Simmons today. We talk about survival mode and how easy it is to live there without even realizing it, and how unprocessed grief and trauma can show up in our bodies in ways that we do not expect. Cristina shares her story with so much honesty, from loss, motherhood, emotional eating, nervous system regulation, and the moment that she realized her body was not betraying her, it was actually trying to protect her. And this episode is also our final episode of 2025. And honestly, it feels really fitting to end the year with a conversation that's about grace, curiosity over judgment, and learning how to come back to yourself one step at a time. So wherever you're listening, take a breath, settle in, and know that you don't have to have the answers today. So let's meet Cristina. Hi, Cristina. Thank you so much for being on the Nourisher Podcast today.
I'm so excited to be here, and I love that we were connected by another friend. So cool.
Absolutely. It always makes me so grateful for the community that we have. I'll have guest speakers on, and then they recommend to other people. And you're actually located in Florida, I just found out.
Yeah, I'm in Florida. I've been here for, I guess, 27 years, originally from Tennessee. So every once in a while, my Tennessee accent will come out. So if you hear a little Tennessee, that's where that's from.
You'll sound pretty similar to the rest of the guests that are from Texas then, I guess.
Right. Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about you, since you're not local to this area. I'd love to hear kind of what you're doing, about your work, and then we'll jump into our conversation.
Yeah, so we were connected by a mutual friend, and we are in a mastermind together. Joining a mastermind is really what changed my life. So I am a mom. I always say I'm a mom first. My husband and I have been married for 27 years, and we have lived here in Florida, but we did meet in Tennessee. Our kids were adopted because when we were very young, we found out that we had carried a very rare gene, and so we ended up losing 3 biological children.
I'm so sorry.
We lost 2 girls and a boy, and we adopted 2 girls and a boy. So, it worked out. It was a blessing, and we love being an adoption family. And then our son was diagnosed on the autism spectrum at the age of 4. And so that kind of changed the entire trajectory of my life. I went back to school at the age of 39 to get my master's degree in occupational therapy. I loved doing that, and I was working in the school system for a while. But it was kind of one of those things where I just felt like I was meant to do more. And so I started looking outside the small community that I had for other women that were like-minded like me, that had big dreams and big goals. And, I didn't have a lot of friends here in this area that thought like that. And so I always thought, well, there must be something wrong with me because I'm thinking too big. But then I found all these other women that they're thinking the same way. And so found a mastermind. I have a mentor now. She's changed my entire life. I just love her to pieces, and wrote my first book. And now I'm speaking, doing some education and teaching. I'm stepping on a TEDx stage in March. So the last year and a half has just really been like a whirlwind, and my life is completely different from how it was before.
I love what happens when like-minded women come together because, you might talk to people, even friends, right? We are all wired differently, but sometimes I'll talk to my friends about a big, large idea that I have. And because they're not in the same mindset as me, they're like, I don't know how to help you. Sounds awesome. I hope it works out, but I don't know how to help you. So when you get into that group of women who are really just pushing you, then you find yourself in all these new avenues that you really didn't think was possible.
I mean, these were the dreams that I was writing on pieces of paper and, telling very few people about, because they just didn't understand. And even when I started doing the things, I had written the book and it was getting ready to come out, and I was telling some of my old friends here, and they're just looking at me like, okay, you're so cute. you think you're going to write a book and you're going to go talk and you're going to be, you're just the cutest, So not everybody needs to have access to your dreams, I guess is what I'm saying. So you just got to know the right people to tell and find that circle of people that you belong in.
That's a great way to put it. We definitely have to be careful with the access we give to people, period, but especially with specific things like our goals and dreams, for sure. So I know that you're a public speaker, so you've told your story several times over and over, but I'm curious how you're feeling about retelling that story today on the podcast.
My story's hard. It's a little heavy, but I think that's the only way that other people can learn. And, my true message is just that you can go through a lot of hard things and still have joy and still make a difference in the world and help other people. And so I think that's really the underlying message of my story. But what I didn't tell you was in my childhood, my dad was verbally abusive. And so I grew up not having a voice and not thinking that my opinions mattered and that I could choose to live life on my own terms. And so that was really hard then coming into a marriage really young. I got married when I was 22. My husband was 23. Didn't have a lot of communication skills. Didn't know how to tell him what I was feeling or what I needed. And then when we had such a traumatic loss of our children, I fell into a deep depression, had very high anxiety, was having panic attacks at one point, and my health was starting to fail. I was having chronic pain, like fibromyalgia type symptoms. I was very inflamed. I had destroyed my gut health. I was having migraines, because if you don't process the trauma that you've been through, it will manifest in physical form. And so that was another lesson I learned along the way, and why I love to tell people that you have to deal with your emotions. Like, even though it's really hard and you may not want to relive some of those things that you've been through, if you don't, it can be really detrimental to your health.
Oh, for sure. And I just want to say thank you for sharing all of that, all the parts of your story, even the really heavy ones, because I agree with you. I think we learn the best when we hear how other people went through the same or similar situation and how they coped with it, even if it's a perfect stranger. So thank you for sharing that. It seems like you have had quite a few points in your life where you may have been in a valley or hit a low. Was there a moment or a specific season throughout your life when you realized that you were operating strictly in survival mode?
So part of the story that I didn't tell you, my husband was actually unfaithful in our marriage at one point. And that was the real turning point for me to realize that I had kind of checked out. I was living in survival mode for a lot of years, and I wasn't holding up my end of the bargain in our marriage. I wasn't being the wife that I had told him that I was going to be. I wasn't upholding my vows, and it wasn't on purpose, obviously. I was just in such a state of grief that I was in survival mode, and I was just on complete autopilot. And that's one of the things that I do regret now, is that I don't remember a lot of my kids' childhood, and which is very sad to me. I see pictures and I know I was there. I'm in the pictures, but I cannot recall what it felt like to be there. I don't recall the emotions, because I think for a long time I had just turned my emotions off because I didn't want to feel anything. It's just really sad to me that when you're living like that you miss so much of your life.
I know you touched a little bit on how that was showing up, how that season or maybe even another season showed up in your body, whether that was physically, emotionally, or in your behaviors. So talk a little bit more about how it presented in your body specifically.
Yeah, I was very inflamed, which I didn't even realize what that meant back when I was in the height of inflammation. But, I was young, in my 30s, and my joints hurt. My skin was breaking out and doing weird things. There were so many things that I couldn't eat. I realized that I was gluten sensitive and lactose intolerant, and all of these foods, like any kind of vegetables, made my tummy very upset. And so I was trying to change things and trying to do eat right again. But my system was just all out of whack. My hormones were definitely off the charts. I went into menopause in my 30s, but didn't realize it at the time. just thought that I had gone completely crazy and kept telling the doctor, like, there's something wrong with me. And because I was so young, they never even tested my hormones because I was in my 30s. Why would I be having menopause symptoms? But my periods had always been very regular, and that had all gone haywire. I was getting cysts. Like, my body was literally screaming at me, like, you've got to do something. And I'm glad that I finally listened, but I had to work really hard this past year to heal my gut, which was expensive and time consuming and like a whole nother job. So if you can not destroy your gut, that is my that is my recommendation. Take care of yourself.
You know, you're kind of making me second guess all of the things that I know about myself right now. So I'm about to be 33 and I'm actually going through all of the same things, maybe not, grief wise, but a lot of the same health issues. And it really just is taking a major toll on my mental health. Looking at myself in the mirror, I already have debilitating body dysmorphia to a point where I don't want to leave the house, but I'm going through those struggles. And then, of course, when you're inflamed and everything hurts and I can eat a salad and it still hurts, it's just, you feel so helpless. So I can't imagine how that feels paired with the trauma that you were also experiencing at the same time.
Yeah, because I'm trying to raise little ones. And then when our son came along, and he actually helped me to realize how dysregulated my nervous system was, because he had so many sensory issues. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to go back to school, because I could not find anybody to help him. And he was getting kicked out of every school we ever had him in. It was like my phone was ringing constantly. I had like PTSD from my cell phone, because every time my cell phone would ring, it was like jump, because I just knew it was the school and that I was going to have to go pick him up again. It was disrupting me trying to work. It was just taking over our whole family life. But the things that helped him, I found also helped me. He likes deep pressure. So he loves roller coasters. We were talking about going to Disney and all those places. He's like a roller coaster junkie, because that G-force, that really, really deep pressure, is so calming to him. I lift heavy weights because that calms my nervous system, because it's that input that I need. And then I realized that I was using food as a coping mechanism as well, but it was the sensory input, the way that the food felt in my mouth, that was calming to me. And he has a lot of little quirks and things that he will wear, like he'll only wear, or things that he will not wear, that he refuses to wear. Like, he wouldn't wear shoes when he was little. We had so much trouble with socks. He wouldn't put anything hardly over his head. It had to zip up. Like, he had to be able to get it off because he felt like he was being smothered. And there was a time where he would only wear Thomas the Train shirts. If it did not have Thomas the Train on it, he was not putting it on his little body, and that was getting expensive. But all those things helped me to recognize how dysregulated my sensory system was. So you can imagine, if mom's dysregulated and tiny one is dysregulated, it's like a time bomb, It's a perfect storm.
I'm sure there's lots of chaos that comes with that, for sure. Well, you mentioned how you were using food as a coping mechanism, and you speak very openly in your talks and in your book about emotional eating. So what did that look like for you during those times of grief and trauma?
Obviously, I was eating my feelings. That's the title. I titled my book, Eat Your Feelings. But if I ever got upset about anything, I would just go straight to the kitchen. And I didn't even realize I was doing it for a long time. And it wasn't until, because my son had a lot of trouble with food, with textures and all that kind of thing. And so I started noticing the way that he was eating as in conjunction with how he was acting. And then I'm standing in the pantry one day and I was anxious and I was looking for chips. And it just hit me out of nowhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm eating my feelings. Like, it hadn't even dawned on me before that. And so I started to correlate like the types of foods that I was eating with the emotion that I was having. So if I'm anxious, I want like crunchy, salty, so like salt and vinegar chips or Cheez-Its or corn chips or something like that. And then if I'm sad, I want like a cake or a pudding. type of substance. And if I'm angry, I want like a hearty chili or a big fat hamburger, something like I can really sink my teeth into. So now, if I'm going to the pantry for food, I can sort of stop and say, okay, am I really hungry? Or am I just worried about something that's coming up, or, worried about the kids or whatever it is. So
that's a really great point. And to really pay attention to the kinds of foods that you're craving and associate that with a specific mood, because I do all of those things. I want all of those things at different times. I know the number of times in a week that I say I need a cheeseburger. I should probably be doing a pulse check and understanding why it is that I'm craving those foods for sure. But I think it is something that a lot of us do, and we don't realize that we're doing it. And so if there's anything that you wish that women understood about emotional eating and maybe the way that society frames that, what do we get wrong with that most of the time?
Well, and I've been dealing with this a lot lately because, I'm also like the fitness girl. I have fitness and nutrition training because I was trying to heal myself. And I love to learn. And so, all of my friends, they know how much I work out, and it was always like this joke, but it became to be not very funny because, then we're at a party or whatever, and they're like, well, it's just one cookie, just take one shot. And I'm like, no, like, I'm not shaming you for the things that you're eating. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand why they kept pushing everything on me. And it was almost like they wanted me to eat it so they didn't feel guilty about eating it too. You know what I mean? We just need to take our power back. And it's my body. I have to feel good inside of this body, and that's nobody else's business.
Oh gosh, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, guys, just because you're not blatantly calling somebody fat, there is no reason for us to be commenting about how much we're eating, what we're eating, why we aren't, or why we are eating certain things. So I love that you said that, because I think we deal with it, and I don't think we mean to come across in a certain way. Obviously, we don't have ill intentions. It just naturally comes out of our mouth.
Well, I think everybody's trying to make themselves feel better. I say this to my husband all the time. I'm like, nobody's thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
And we just take it personally. You have to learn to be your best friend first. You have to learn how to love yourself. And that's really what I learned from it, was I had to get to know myself again, because I had sort of lost myself and all of that other tragedy that had happened. And like, I realized I couldn't even look myself in the eye in the mirror. It was so uncomfortable. And I have listened to a few of your podcasts, about the body dysmorphia and all that kind of thing. And I know that I've had that most of my life as well, because I've like gained and lost the same 30 pounds again and again and again over my lifetime. And it's so weird, because even at my thinnest, like, you go to the store and you still want to buy that bigger size, because when you look in the mirror, that's the girl you see. It's just really strange. It's very strange. It's almost like you're living outside your body.
Yeah. And I think what's crazy too is we don't give ourselves enough grace, especially when we've been through something like a miscarriage or some kind of other traumatic event. For me personally, I experienced 2 miscarriages in 1 year. And up until that point, I was always fit. I was fit, even though I did still also have body dysmorphia and didn't think I was fit. Yeah. I was a certain size. And then with my first pregnancy, I gained probably 10 to 12 pounds. And then after the loss, it would not come off. It wouldn't come off. But I think, again, now hearing you talk, it's a lot more than it was just food and weight. It was probably grief and anger and all the things. And then same thing when the second time came around. And so I think we so easily judge ourselves, even though we know we're going through something that's affecting the way our body presents on the outside. And so what would be your advice for women and how we can start really listening to our bodies when something presents itself as being wrong? And instead of that being a point of judgment, how can we start getting curious as opposed to angry and upset?
Well, you got to learn, like you said, you got to learn to give yourself grace. I'm a Christian, and so I'm very spiritual, and I really had to start looking at myself through God's eyes, not how the world saw me or not even how I saw myself, because I couldn't trust myself because what I was seeing was not the real thing. But in that relationship with God, it brings you closer to you. It's really you that you're making the friendship with, and you that you're trusting yourself again. But, I do a lot of journaling and writing. And I think sometimes just getting it out of your body, onto paper, or movement. I mean, that's why I work out. I love to walk. I try to walk a lot during the week, and I love to get out and walk with my dogs. That's like their most favorite thing. They love when they see me in my workout clothes. They're like, "Oh, we're going, Mom. Let's go." But just being outside in the sunshine, and you've got to get yourself removed, and it kind of sounds like avoidance but that's what I did for a lot of years, was avoiding dealing with it. But this is more of a redirection, and doing something positive to get you out of that negative mindset.
Somehow sunshine just brings clarity, I feel like.
For sure. Birds, the sound of the birds and the trees and...
Yeah. And I think there's so much to be said for movement. I love that it's always take a walk outside. And I know it sounds so cliche and just so like it came out of a quote book, but it really does make a huge difference to get out and hear the birds, feel the sun, feel the breeze.
It can change your whole demeanor in a matter of minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to transition into the motherhood aspect of your entire story. So you mentioned that you have a child with special needs. So how did becoming a mother to a child with those special needs change the way that you saw yourself?
Well, I realized through a lot of things how strong I was, but to have a special needs child takes a special kind of person. And it's funny because my mom visited us a lot when he was little, and she would almost get like traumatized every time she would come because he had full on screaming fits, sometimes for 45 minutes at a time. And just nothing we could do, soothed him. And my mom actually said to me one time, she's like, "You and your husband are saints." She's like, "I don't know how you deal with this every day." But what were we supposed to do? He was the child that was given to us, and I loved him, and I wanted to take care of him. And I was just doing the best that I could at the time. But I talk a lot about education because I needed to learn how his little brain worked in order to help his body, be more regulated. And I say to parents all the time, and when I do a lot of these podcasts, like, you are your child's best advocate. Nobody's going to fight harder for them than you are, but you've got to know what you're up against. And I'm not saying to go back and get a master's degree like I did, because I do everything to the extreme, but you've really got to educate yourself. And then just accept the things that you can't change. There's a lot of things about him that they just are what they are. And I pick my battles, and I don't fight against the things that I know he's not going to change. And we adapt to all the other things. And so our life just looks a little bit different than other people's does.
I love that you said that you just have to learn. And I know not everybody wants to go back and get their master's, but just doing a little bit of research, listening to podcasts, reading books, there's so much to be said for the fact that you did make more of an effort to learn and not feel helpless in a sense. Like, is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, it's very empowering when you really understand the science behind it and what's going on. Because it also helps you to have more compassion for them, because there's some things that he can't help. He's not doing it on purpose. And that was one of the hard things for my husband to understand. My husband just thought he was a brat for a long time. And I'm like, he's not being defiant on purpose. He doesn't hear things the same way we do. He doesn't process things the same way. He would get very anxious about things because he needs everything in order and in a row. And when his schedule would be off, it would just set him into a tailspin. So we just have to have a little bit more compassion and do a little more planning probably than a lot of people do.
Were there any expectations or maybe like family identities that you feel like you had to release and in turn also take some time to grieve those losses as well?
Yeah, because, my husband still kind of says things, when other people's kids are like playing sports and they're doing dance and they're going to travel league and all, when we don't do any of those things. We couldn't go out to eat for a long time because he couldn't be in the restaurant. It was too overstimulating with all the smells and the lights and the noise. And he had like severe separation anxiety for me. Like if I walked around the corner, he would just scream and scream and scream until I came back into his eyesight. So we couldn't go to church for a long time because I couldn't leave him in children's church. I couldn't just have anybody babysit him. I mean, I had trouble controlling him. I can't ask somebody else to come into my home and, and then my girls, his sisters are about 5 years older than he is. And they've had a lot of sacrifice in their life, because there's a lot of things we could and couldn't do as a family because of him. And we wouldn't change it. I think that a lot of times he was getting a lot of the attention in the house, which meant the girls weren't getting that same attention. So there's just a lot of different dynamics.
I'm glad you touched on that because that was going to be my next question, is how that also affected you as a parent with your other children. So my brother is high functioning autistic as well. It is interesting, even as a sister, to release some of those expectations of what a family gathering looks like, what a relationship with my brother looks like, right? Because I want to be very close with my siblings the older I get. And my sister and I, now we're getting to a point where we're very close, but I'll never have that relationship with my brother. And it is sad. It's something that I do grieve. But I also have to let go of that as well, that expectation that it's ever going to be that relationship, and being satisfied or being content with the way that it is and knowing that that relationship is meeting its full potential.
Yeah. And my girls are so good with him. They take him to school and pick him up every day. One of the twins gets along better with him than the other one does, but one of them is trying to make him be more independent. He can do a lot of things for himself. He's 17 now. So, he started cooking a little bit and doing his own laundry and all those kind of things. But of course he would rather other people do them for him.
Oh yeah.
And she does not let him get away with that. She's like, no, you can make your own eggs. You can do your own laundry. You can, and the other twin, she's a little more lenient and she'll do things for him. And, but they actually get along pretty well, but you're right. It's not that typical brother-sister relationship that you see in other families.
I just feel like you've been through so much, and I'm curious how we started to shift from this place. Like we started off this conversation talking about you in the valley and recognizing when you were in survival mode. So were there specific tools or maybe mindset shifts that really helped you most whenever you felt like you needed to take a step forward?
Well, the writing has really helped me. Journaling, and then obviously writing the book was very therapeutic. But I do a lot of breathing exercises and meditation, which was very hard. Meditation is hard if there's a lot of noise in your head. But, you just got to experiment. It's like with everything else, just got to experiment and kind of find those meditations that allow you to go into that deeper state. But now that's very relaxing to me. And there's certain days, that I can't concentrate, and I'm like, okay, whatever, forget this. But the breathing is, and again, like you said, going outside is so simple. The breath is like the simplest thing that you can do, but it's an immediate calming for your nervous system. So I use that a lot.
I think those are all great practices, but I can completely relate with my brain will not let me meditate.
Yeah. Have you seen the Kung Fu Panda movies?
I haven't.
So I'm gonna make a reel because there's this one scene where he's like trying to meditate. He's like, serenity now, and then it goes into like, dinner please, dinner peas. Like he gets totally off. He's like thinking of all these different other things. And I'm like, yes, that is my brain. It like totally squirrels out. So I want to do like the voiceover of me trying to meditate, but like with his voice. So I'm going to have to do that.
That's hilarious. Nope, that's me trying to fall asleep literally every single day.
Yeah. Thinking about all the things I didn't do or that I should do or I got to do tomorrow. And yeah.
Yes. Well, and I really appreciate you giving us like the tools that have helped you become successful, or at least to get you on the path to actual healing. But I think something that I really love, that maybe a term that you've coined, is moving beyond survival. So what does that look like? Like, what does it look like in practice each day?
It's a slow journey. And I've been calling it fraud lately, but like imposter syndrome type of thing, you know, and that's a pretty big buzzword these days. But like I wrote a whole book on emotional eating and I'm over here still emotionally eating.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, what the heck is happening here? Like I'm telling people all these things to do, but I had to realize that I'm a human being and this is a journey. We're never fixed. You know, we're never completely healed. We're always evolving. And just with all of these different changes that I've been making, I mean, I'm sort of leveling up. You know what I mean? So my body is freaking out and like, no, that's not safe. You can't do those big things like TEDx stage. What are you thinking? You know, so it's like your body tries to put you back in that place of freeze because it doesn't want you to do the scary thing. So any trigger that you had before, it's going to come up once you're trying to evolve and move forward. So I've learned to give myself grace. Like I realize, I mean, it's like being an alcoholic. You know, I have a sugar addiction. So it's not like that's going to go away. I'm always going to deal with that. So it's just something that I deal with on a daily basis. But yeah, it's work is what it looks like. It's work.
Yeah. So I'm going to go follow you on social media so that when I know you're headed to your TEDx, I'm going to see what snacks you take with you.
Well, I've actually hired a new coach. She calls it like food sobriety, but I'm like trying to totally get off sugar. Cause like I said, it's like an alcoholic. Like they wouldn't have one beer. You know what I mean? Like you quit. So yeah. And I picked the holidays to do it. Real smart, right?
I was about to say there's sugar in literally everything. I'm learning about all the oils that I can't have. And my favorite grain-free, gluten-free chips, I looked at the store today and they are made with avocado oil, which I cannot have. And I was just
gosh.
What else am I supposed to do?
I know it gets to where you don't even care if you eat anything. It's like you can't eat anything. Everything's got something bad in it.
Well, we're on the struggle bus together, so I'm glad that we connected because I'm probably just gonna have to message you and be like, please help me.
I will. I'm here for you, girl.
I really love that you are using your story, and I think it's so powerful when people have that gift to be able to tell their story in a way that really inspires others. But I think it has an even larger impact on how quickly or the way that we heal ourselves. So what role does storytelling play for you in healing your trauma and even the image you have of yourself in your body?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of storytelling. Everybody has a story, and I think a lot of us don't feel seen and heard, and so telling our story helps us to do that. But it also removes the shame. What you bring into the light can be healed. And if you're the one who tells the story, then no one else can judge you for it because you told it. So it's not like they called you out on it or they brought it into the light. And you get to tell your story the way that you want to tell it.
That's so powerful because I agree. I think people can speculate on your social media like all day, every day. They can be like, oh, she looks a little thick today or, oh, and they have no idea what you're going through.
Yeah. It's our job to educate people. People don't know what they don't know. So you have to let them know what's going on and be transparent about it.
Oh, for sure. We have mentioned the word reclaim, and I did that specifically with our mutual friend. And so what does it mean for you to quote unquote reclaim your body after you dealt with so much pain for so long?
It's empowering. And I think that's why I finally decided to do this whole, admit that like I was addicted to sugar, because now I can make the decision that I don't eat those foods anymore because they make me feel bad. I mean, I'm tired of feeling bad. You know what I mean? Like, I've done a lot of work and I feel so much better than I did years ago, obviously, because I don't have those fibromyalgia-like symptoms anymore. But like, if I eat gluten, my joints hurt. I mean, it's like I'm riddled with arthritis or something, like I'm an 80-year-old lady. But now I'm also more aware of how my body feels. And because before I was so disassociated, I didn't even realize the things that I was eating. I was just in pain all the time. So now at least I can tell the difference, but it's really empowering that you know what you need and when you need it, and that you're making the decisions for yourself.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I actually, going back to what we were talking about earlier with society and the way that women kind of judge each other, but not purposefully. When you decide that this is the body that I was given, this is the way that my body reacts to certain foods and certain activities, and I no longer want to participate in that because it hurts, I recently had brunch with a group of friends, and I was talking to them about how I was going to cut out alcohol during the week, and I was only going to give myself Friday, Saturday to drink. And they mentioned, they were like, I don't want to live in a world where I have to restrict myself like that. And I was like, that's fair. I would love to not be able to, I would love to not have to restrict myself. But for me, I'm doing this because I'm in pain. I'm in pain and I want to fix it, and I'm not willing to be in pain anymore. And I think that for me was the moment where I'm like, no, I'm absolutely reclaiming what's happening with my body.
Yes. That's good for you. And it's not their journey. You're on different paths, and that's okay too. And that's what, I've had to let go of a lot of friendships because we were on different paths. It's not just what we're putting in our body, it's what we're putting in our mind. And so that's a lot of the times you have to sort of let go of some of those relationships that aren't feeding you the way that you need to be fed. But I totally understand that. Alcohol is so inflammatory. So I never had to worry about giving that up. I was lucky in that respect, I guess, but it was because it hurt my stomach. Like, it just wasn't worth it to me. It made me sick. And so I'm like, why do I want to drink something that makes me sick?
Well, and I think too, whenever we get to a place where we are reclaiming our body, after we've experienced some of these traumatic things, it is work. Like you said, it's absolutely step by step trying to rewrite our narrative. And so for people who might be in that stage where they're ready to reclaim their identity, their body, what would you say is like the first step in trying to begin rewriting their own narrative?
A community is really important. I think if you have accountability, or if you can find somebody else who's going through the same thing, like us talking about, and we're resonating with a lot, it makes you feel like you're not alone. And now, social media, you can find a perfect stranger that becomes your community because so many people are putting out there, the things that they're going through. But that's really what helped me, is just finding that circle of people that were only positive and were not bringing me down and not, poo-pooing the things that I was saying, and that they were supportive. Oh, you're not eating sugar anymore. Okay, girl, then I'm not going to have this cookie either. Like, those are my people.
Yeah. I know when my husband was like, oh, you're not drinking coffee anymore. He's like, well, I guess we're tea people now. I was like, oh, thank you so much.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
Because it's hard to surround yourself with people who can eat and drink whatever they want.
Yeah. And community can be one other person. It doesn't have to be a group of people. You just need that one person.
Okay, I want to do a little rapid fire round of questions here because you've given us so much good advice. And so I want to get to know you and how healing looks for you every day. So we'll start with, what is a practice that currently helps you feel grounded in your body?
I just got a weighted vest.
Ooh,
And so I've been walking with my weighted vest. Yeah.
that's literally grounded.
Yes. It was very surprising actually, and it was really hard the first time I did it. Like I couldn't catch my breath. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't think I can wear this thing for very long." But just the second day, it was already easier. And so that was like one of those moments where I was like, how many people do anything where the first day it was hard and then they don't do it again, and the second day it could have been so much easier. And so that was my lesson I learned from the weighted vest.
That's so true. When weighted blankets came out, I was like, this is psychotic. Who wants to have 20 pounds just laying on top of them? And then I did it for the first time and I was so relaxed.
It's like a hug.
Yes.
Yeah.
My sister has a weighted vest that she walks with her mom's group, and she loves it. Okay. What about a comfort food that is actually nourishing your body now?
So I'm on like this very bland, boring plan right now, but I love oatmeal with plain Greek yogurt. Like the very plain, like it's something about the consistency of it. It's very calming to me. And like berries in it, I put like strawberries or blueberries in it. So it's like a good healthy snack.
Yeah, you can't have oatmeal without berries.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I'm having to let go of putting brown sugar in my oatmeal.
Oh, no brown sugar. I don't have brown sugar in there.
Yeah. The oatmeal, what is that? The Quaker Oats instant oatmeal with like apples and cinnamon and brown sugar.
Oh my gosh, when you said that, I could smell it.
And now I'm depressed because I know I can't eat it.
Yeah. That's like a childhood thing, like brings me back to my childhood.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, what is one belief about your body that you've let go of?
That it betrayed me. For a long time, I thought my body has just given up on me, and that wasn't the case. My mind had betrayed me. So I had to learn how to reconnect my mind and my body.
I completely agree with that. I think that's something that we judge our body every time something goes wrong, every time we look different than we did yesterday or 2 months ago. And it's always our body's fault. So yeah. I love that. Okay. So what's one belief that you're actively choosing instead of that belief?
That I control my thoughts and that I have control of my body. And only me has control of my body.
It's part of that reclaiming process like we were talking about. Okay. And since it is Christmas, we have to talk about a small joy that you're holding on to in this season of life.
Well, my dogs, they're a pain in my patoot sometimes, but they're just pure joy. We have 2 boxers. Those are the dogs that I talk about going on a walk with. And, it's so fun, and they stay with me, but they play with each other too. And we have 5 acres. And so we walk the perimeter of the property, and they just love to be out there sniffing and digging and do whatever dogs do. And, while mom's walking out there. But yeah, they're just, the way that they're so happy to see you every time you come in the room. You could have been gone for 2 seconds and they're happy to see you. So yeah, I just love my dogs.
Animals just make everything better.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 closing questions that I ask every single guest on the podcast. And the first one is, what is one thing that most people may not know about you?
Oh, I have never had a cavity. I better knock on wood. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Even when you loved sugar.
I'm going to be 50 years old next year, and I have never had a cavity.
Congratulations. That is an accomplishment.
I think so I learned, I loved genetics when I was in college, back in my 20s when I was in college. And I did a genetics class, and we actually did these swabs in a petri dish. And everybody has different bacteria in their mouth. And I just do not have the bacteria that causes cavities.
When you start thinking negatively about yourself, you just pull that one out of the bag.
Yeah, because that is totally something you cannot control. I mean, you can make
Right.
it worse by eating sugary things, but you may have a cavity. It's not your fault. It's just the bacteria that naturally grow in your mouth cause you to have cavities.
Okay, I'm sure when you do the icebreaker challenge that we do at every conference and that's your fact, I'm sure everyone is so impressed.
I don't know that I've ever met anybody else who's said they've never had a cavity.
Me either. You're definitely a unicorn in that aspect.
I'm gonna have to look it up, like in the Guinness Book of World Records or something.
And then if there's no information, you submit yourself immediately.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, oldest person to have no cavities.
That's so great. Okay, my second question is, who are 3 women who inspire you?
Well, I definitely have to say my mentor, Amberly Lago. That's Tiffany and I are in her mastermind. And like I said, she has just completely changed my entire life. And I know I did a lot of the work. Like she'll say, you've done the work. But I really did have to use her belief in me before I believed in myself. So I just love her to pieces. I'd have to put my mom and my mother-in-law, both just very strong women. My mother-in-law lost her daughter at the age of 16, and that was my husband's sister. He was 18 years old when that happened. So unfortunately, we have losing a child in common, and I've just seen her strength, through these years. And then my mom is very strong too. My mom is 70. She's 75. She still works full time. She's she works full time as an operating room nurse, and runs circles around those 30-year-olds. Like, she is a force to be reckoned with.
I mean, let's be honest. I thought you were going to say she works full time. Like, I don't know. And not to say retail's not a demanding job, but like in retail, like at Kirkland's, or something. But you're like a nurse.
A nurse on her feet, 10 hours. She works 4 10-hour shifts.
Wow.
Yeah. She's like just a force of nature. And I'm going to cheat again because I'm going to say my girls, but they come as a package deal.
They do.
I'm just very proud of them. They have had a lot of anxiety over their lifetime, and they were actually born with cocaine in their system. Mm. And they're pregnant. Their biological mother was in prison for most of their pregnancy. And so there's no telling what they were subjected to in the womb. And, and then growing up with an anxiety-riddled mother, because I realize now that I projected a lot of my anxiety onto them unknowingly. Obviously, I wouldn't have done that on purpose, but so they've bloomed a little late, but they're doing really, really well, and they're working now and making some of their own money. They still live at home with us, but I'm totally fine with that. It's so expensive to live on your own now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could live with my mother right now, I 100% would.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just super proud of them, and they're the best women. You know what I mean? They're just really, really sweet and nurturing, and they have raised so many of my kids' children. And so, I mean, that's, if you can keep another person's baby alive, like, that's a real skill. So yeah. I did something right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that list of women. I think it speaks so much to who you are as a person and who you are as a mother and a daughter. And so I love that. That was the best list, even though it was technically 5 women.
I cheated a lot. It's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. We love to shout out women no matter what. So I'm here for it.
That's right.
Well, Cristina, thank you so much for sharing your story again. It hopefully resonates with someone else and gets them on their way. I'd love for you to tell us where we can follow along with your journey, with your new TEDx coming out, where we can find your book, all the things.
So I'm most active on Instagram, but I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, and my book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can find it wherever books are sold. And so, yeah, send me a message on Instagram. I'm very active on there.
Amazing. Okay, when is your TEDx talk?
March 12th.
Okay, so we'll have to go follow along before then.
Yes.
Before you get uber famous and never speak to us again.
No, that would never happen. I love this new connection. So yeah, definitely keep in touch.
As we wrap up today's conversation and wrap up the Nourisher podcast for 2025, I just want to pause for a moment. If this episode resonated with you, if you heard yourself in Christina's story, or if it stirred up something that you haven't quite found words for yet, I hope you know that nothing is wrong with you, okay? One of my biggest takeaways from this conversation is that our bodies are not the problem. They're not failing us. They're communicating, sometimes extremely loudly, and asking us to listen with a little bit more compassion and a whole lot less judgment. Healing, as Cristina shared, is not linear. It is work, it's grace, it's community, and it's learning when to rest, when to move, when to let go, and when to advocate for yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. As we head into a new year, my hope for you is this, that you choose curiosity over criticism, softness over shame, and that you remember that you do not have to do any of this alone. Thank you so much for being a part of this community, for listening, and for allowing these episodes and conversations to meet you wherever you are. So until next year, stay strong, stay connected, and keep growing.